suddenly a lot of turmoil on the world stage and in the current administration's new policies. Here to help sort it out for us is a political science, I guess you could say, student of political science and sociology, Dr. Donald Wilkie, the author of Freedom Revealed, A Simple, Elegant System. I may have elevated you in that introduction,
Yes, you did.
Donald.
No,
Okay,
doctor.
well, we'll just keep going then. And we give you an honorary doctorate today.
Well, Benjamin Franklin had one, so I'll accept it.
There you go. And you've spent 20 years researching Benjamin Franklin, looking for answers in how to address modern day problems, right?
That's right. Franklin was a student of everything. But what we don't realize about Franklin was he was a student of people. He studied people. In fact, the way he studied people was by studying himself. I don't know if you've ever heard the story of his 13 virtues, but he practiced 13 virtues, one a week for 13 weeks, and then went ahead and repeated it for a full year. And I believe that's what gave Franklin such a good understanding of how the human animal operates.
That's a fascinating story. I had not heard it before. Do you know what the 13 virtues are, and are you practicing them daily?
Yeah, he would practice one virtue every week, and he did it for quite some time. But he was the first guy to ever get into psychoanalysis. We think Freud, but I believe it was Franklin.
Well, I was actually asking you if you had adopted Benjamin Franklin's 13 virtues and if you were practicing them, but you don't have to
You,
answer that.
you know, I tried. I thought I would do it, and then when you really go to do it, it becomes rather difficult. You realize you're going to really learn a lot about yourself, and to be honest, I wasn't sure I wanted to learn that much about myself.
Well, you have intrigued me, and I'm going to go find the 13 virtues and study them and see if I can do a practical application myself. We all celebrated Donald Trump becoming the 47th president of the United States. 77 million Americans voted for him, and we wanted dramatic change from what we've experienced over the last 4 years. Now, 6 weeks into the administration, things are looking a little shaky here and there. What's your current assessment? I mean, my barometer is the stock market, unfortunately. That probably tells you more about me than I'd like to reveal. But February and March have been rough months if you're invested in the stock market. And I think it is largely a reflection of two things. You tell me whether you agree. First of all, I think our economy is really on pretty shaky grounds. Trump says that he inherited the worst economy that he could have imagined from Biden. And secondly, Trump layers on top of that draconian tariffs on our trading partners. What's your assessment of where we are?
Uh, my assessment is anytime a country is $36 trillion in debt, their economy is not the best. We need to get rid of that debt. And Elon Musk is doing a great job. Otherwise,
Yeah.
what Trump is doing is he's doing everything right. He's encouraging the marketplace, he's encouraging investment, and he's limiting government. The interplay between marketplace and government is usually the government takes over more of the marketplace, which hinders economic growth. If you ever get a dictatorship, like many socialist countries, the market basically takes over, the government basically takes over the entire marketplace. So right now, Trump, to my way of looking at things, is doing everything right.
Why does government want to adopt that position? Why do fellow human beings want to take control and tell everybody else how to live their life and when to inhale and when to exhale?
Well, can I give you a little background on where I came from? It'd take about a minute or two,
Have at it.
but I decided that in order to figure out, now your program is called The Truth,
That is
and
right.
I wanted to find the truth. And I figured the truth I could find in nature. And the question was, how does nature operate? We all have heard that there is no waste in nature. Well, if there's no waste in nature, what drives it out? And the thing that I came up with, which is obvious once you come up with it, is competition. Competition drives waste out of nature. The thing that we have not done as a society is look at competition and waste as being tied together. We think of waste and we think of competition, but we never think of them being tied together. And the way you really have to look at them is a seesaw. Competition on one end, waste on the other. As competition goes up, waste goes down. As competition goes down, waste goes up. And that is just a real self-evident thing. The other thing I learned about nature is everything moves to ease. And you can see that in the national parks. There's always signs that say, do not feed the animals. If you feed the animals, they'll stop feeding themselves. Okay, competition, waste, and ease. That's how nature works. It's very simple. Very nicely simple. And I applied those concepts to the marketplace and government. Human beings, two great systems that we live with every day. We never think about them, but that's what we live in. We live in a marketplace. We live in government. And when you apply those foundations to the marketplace, competition, waste, and ease, you see that the marketplace operates almost identical to nature. Businesses continually eliminate waste. Everything moves to ease. The whole point of trade, the whole point of the marketplace is a move to ease. You'll never see a salesman come on TV and pitch his product saying, this is going to make your life difficult. No, it's always going to make your life easy. Take the same principles, apply to government, and what you find is really kind of surprising to me when I thought about it, but there's only one government. And because there's only one government, there's going to be waste. There's no competition, so there's no mechanism to drive waste out of government. And this is what we're seeing with Elon Musk. Now, your question to get back is a long way to get to your question. But why do people in government like to dictate what we do? It is a natural tendency of government to grow. And why do I say that? Because what is the function of government? The government makes laws, rules, regulations. Not only do they make the laws, rules, and regulations, they enforce the laws, rules, and regulations. And you see the talk today between Musk and Trump, Trump proposing for every regulation Congress passes, 10 regulations have to go into the wastebasket. It's just a natural tendency. And if you don't have anything to limit government, which we have our Constitution and Bill of Rights, government always goes to dictatorship. This is what Benjamin Franklin was afraid of, and he always called it arbitrary government. But that's really the reason. It's very simple.
Well, over the last 4 years, we saw a lot of erosion of our freedoms. We saw limitations really unprecedented in my lifetime on free speech, not just in the United States, but really globally around the world. People were trying to limit others' free speech. There has been pressure on our Second Amendment rights. And clearly, government has become very intrusive into each and every American's life. And there's virtually no segment of my life where government is not at play in one form or another. Do you see an opportunity to roll this back? Can we get back to equilibrium?
We have to. And I'm sure you're familiar with the famous story of Franklin at the end of the U.S. Constitutional Convention, where a woman asked him, what do we have, doctor? A republic or a monarchy? And he said, we have a republic if you can keep it. Now, what Franklin was really saying is, hey, we've done the best we can do. We've written a document. But in the final analysis, it's up to the people to keep it. And if the people don't want to keep government, we'll lose it. We'll lose limited government. This is an interesting historical fact that most people don't realize, but the United States was the very first government in the history of mankind to purposefully try to limit government. That was the whole point of the Constitution. And as you say, over the last 4 years, our freedom of speech was attacked. Second Amendment was attacked. And what we really had in the last election, as far as I'm concerned, is an election between big government and limited government. And for the sake of the country and for the sake of freedom, limited government won.
And to me, it may be a bit broader than that. I really think that we are watching class warfare in this country today, and to me, it seems to be a struggle of the haves versus the have-nots. Personally, I view myself as a generous, compassionate person, but I also know that people do not benefit from handouts that they do not earn. Absolutely, if someone is in a time of need, help them. But this continual social welfare state, I believe, has created a false expectation of life, and people have grown accustomed to the free money that they can get from the government, and they've become dependent on it, and they have developed an expectation that they should be able to get more. And to me, that's what the rub is really about. What say you?
Well, John, you're highlighting one of the foundations: competition, waste, and ease. Everything moves to ease. We're an animal, and if we get free stuff, we think it's in our own best interest. Humans always act in what they believe is their own best interest. And if they get on welfare, the last thing in the world they want to do is get off welfare. President Johnson, when he created the Great Society, got it entirely backward. He thought if we gave everybody a boost for a certain period of time, we could literally end poverty in the United States. What he didn't realize how freedom worked. He didn't realize everything moves to ease. And once he opened the floodgates and started putting people on welfare, it just grew and grew and grew. Yeah, we have to get rid of welfare.
And he did realize the political power that would flow from giving people free stuff. And people that have come after him have followed his leadership. And we've just become a nation of where everybody is looking for a handout. And not just poor people. The special interests that inflict Washington, the pharmaceutical industry, the military industrial complex, the bankers, everybody is looking for a way to gain an advantage at the government's expense. And it seems like we've created this monster that we're having a really difficult time taming. And I wonder if it can be done short of literally taking to the streets in a real revolution. Because we just had an electoral resolution. Now can we follow that with good governance? I don't know whether it's enough or not.
Well, John, it goes back to the foundations. People have been told for years that the government will take care of them. And it sounds very nice, and it sounds like a thing that we should do. I mean, people look out for their own best interests. They think that's what's good for them. But like that example with feeding the animals, we know feeding the animals is not the best thing for them. But we have to educate the people today that being fed is not the best thing for you either. And it's simple education that we have to show and give an understanding that government is going to waste, so government cannot create prosperity, so your real benefit is in the marketplace where prosperity is created. So you talk about the haves, the have-nots. Get a vibrant marketplace. Let there be jobs galore, and then that have and have-not thing will disappear. But once the government starts making people dependent, they have a tendency to stay dependent.
Well, and it's not just our own citizenry. People around the globe have come to depend on the United States. And we can see it in no better place than in the tariff debate that is going on right now. We have a situation where Germany sends their cars to the United States. We tariff them at 2.5%. Yet when we send our cars to Germany, they tariff them at 10%. And now they can't understand why we don't want to do that anymore. And they think that we're horrible people now that we want parity in tariffs. Are tariffs going to work? Is it a way to rebalance the equation with our trading partners around the globe?
John, I am not an expert on tariffs, but from what I've seen from Trump so far, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. The guy that I like to point to is Milei down in Argentina with his runaway inflation. I mean, what did he do? He got rid of government bureaus. He limited government, and he emphasized the marketplace. Well, he's just about eliminated inflation in Argentina. He's done a terrific job. So what he's doing is proving that that system works. To have a prosperous society, you have to keep government limited and you have to encourage the marketplace. So anything that Trump can do to encourage the marketplace and encourage economic activity in the United States, well, I'm for it.
So, what's your perception, and where do you think we are with the Ukraine and the European Union, and all those very complicated dynamics that we're watching play out in front of us in real time?
Well, it looks like a wake-up call for the world, doesn't it? I mean, J.D. Vance, if you can imagine this, has to go to Europe and lecture them on free speech. So I think it's time that we woke up and get back to our foundations. And of course, the foundations are a strong constitution. Part of our constitution, of course, is the Bill of Rights. And it's easy for government to try to escape from those strictures, because all the Constitution does, when you really think about it, is limit the power of government. That's the whole purpose of a Constitution.
And the mystery to me is, why would anybody want to change that? You know, it's fine if you're in power and you're going to usurp power that the Constitution doesn't afford you, but it's only as good as long as you remain in power. And now we're seeing where we've had a monumental shift in the balance of power in the United States between the Democrats and the Republicans. The Republicans are firmly in control of three branches of government today. Don't you think it's a short-sighted goal to take power and to place yourself and your own goals in place of the Constitution?
Yeah, I mean, the whole point of government and the whole point of economics is people. People make up government, people make up economics. If there weren't people, we wouldn't have government, we wouldn't have economics. And what people want in their life is a prosperous life. We only get one chance at life. We only get one go around. We want to have a happy, prosperous life. This is an indication why everyone around the world wants to come to the United States. It's because it's a prosperous country. They don't really care about what kind of government it is. They want to go to where they can have prosperity. Now, government, I mentioned before, can only waste. And this is a simple thing, and most people don't understand it. But we talk about socialism all the time, continually, and the causes and who wrote it and who thought about it and what it does and this and that and the other thing. But the thing we really miss is socialism is a government system. Because it's a government system, it has to waste. There's no competition. And so the reason socialist countries always go into poverty is they're a government system. They are going to waste. There's no mechanism to eliminate waste. And people just don't get it because they've been told lies for so long. Once they learn the foundations, once they realize government can only waste, they'll never want socialism again.
I always felt pretty confident that our government employed a fair amount of self-discipline. I always felt that there were inherent limitations on government that our Constitution and our Supreme Court put in place to protect individual liberty and keep people free of government oppression. It just seems like those guardrails have been eroded and taken down, and that today we see people with our own Federal Bureau of Investigation going into court with under fictitious premises and lying to get warrants so that they can then go and attack political enemies, political targets. That's a real serious condition in my view. Do you agree?
Yeah, of course. Again, the Constitution was written for one purpose only. That was to keep government limited. Now, the way government gets around it, and this is something I discovered in writing the book, is they preach safety. I just heard Trudeau in Canada say, we want to keep the people safe. We think of the coronavirus problem, and what did the government do? They wanted to keep us safe. So as they're keeping us safe, they're becoming dictators. So safety is the refuge of scoundrels. But in a way, we ask government to keep us safe. So we have to always understand that trade-off. Safety is a double-edged sword. It's nice, maybe a nice army to protect us, but having the government do everything for us eventually will look just like a prison cell. And a lot of people who have had the despotic, dictatorial experience will tell you that what the government told us was they want to keep us safe. When they keep you safe, they tell you what you can do, what you can't do, and when you can do it.
Well, and I think it works as long as there is trust. And I think that we've seen a severe erosion of trust in our government, and that we don't really want them to keep us safe any longer, because in COVID, we know that we were blatantly lied to. And so there goes the trust. So don't keep me safe anymore. I'll take care of that with my shotgun under my bed, and I'll make my own decisions on which vaccines to take or not to take. Don't you think that typifies what a lot of Americans are thinking today?
Absolutely. And this was the result of the election. Limited government won. It really is just that simple.
So what brought you to write Freedom Revealed, a simple, elegant system? What was your inspiration?
It started with government. I ran a business, and I say I was a victim of the regulatory avalanche that happened about the late 80s, early 90s, where all of a sudden government came in and wanted to micromanage everything you did in business. And I said to myself, that's just not a free system. That's not how a country should operate. And it started me on a journey. I found Franklin. I started reading Franklin. I asked questions. I started answering questions. And it became quite surprising, really, how simple it all really is. Competition, Waste, and Ease explains so much once you get it. The marketplace is competitive, it creates prosperity. Government is non-competitive, it creates waste. What could be simpler?
You've helped lay it out for us today, Don Wilkie. I really appreciate it. Other than the fact that you're a Michigan fan, I take it. I'm a Buckeye.
Oh, yeah.
We have a lot in common. And so thank you for coming on The Truth today. And where do we get your book, Freedom Revealed, a Simple, Elegant System?
You can get it on Amazon, all the big booksellers, Book Baby, and also go to YouTube and Substack. I've got a lot of videos up there. I've got channels on YouTube, and it's quite enlightening to hear these little talks. I take just a simple little item and explain it a bit more. And John, I have to be on the right track, because so far I haven't had anyone who can really argue with me. So I think that's a pretty good deal.
Well, let me introduce you to my wife, and we'll see how you stand up against that challenge. I kid, I joke, of course. We've been married for 47 glorious years. And but you have really given us a lot of food for thought today, and I love your approach and the way that you've simplified it for us. And so I do look forward to reading the book, Freedom Revealed, a Simple, Elegant System, and finding you on your Substack and on YouTube. So thank you for coming on The Truth today.
If you get the foundations wrong, everything else is wrong in everything we do.
And I think the corollary is probably also true. Get the foundations right, everything just falls neatly into place.
Exactly.
Don Wilkie, thank you so much, and stay warm. We'll send you some West Palm Beach warm air up there.
Oh, you're making me jealous. Thanks so much.
Have a great day.